Rumi, the great 13th century Sufi poet and mystic, left a legacy that transcends time and culture. His words speak directly to the human heart, offering profound insights into love, pain, and the connection with the divine. For Carl Gustav Jung, who dedicated his life to studying the human soul, Rumi's poetry resonates deeply with the principles of analytical psychology. Both explore the journey of self-discovery, the integration of the self, and the relationship between the conscious and unconscious. But what connects Jung and Rumi? While Jung delved into the concepts of the collective unconscious, the shadow, and individuation to understand the human psyche, Rumi guided us on a path of contemplation and surrender to divine love. Yet, they shared a fundamental belief. True transformation happens within us when we face our shadows, embrace our wounds, and connect with something greater than ourselves. Rumi wrote, "The wound is the place where the light enters you." On the surface, this phrase is poetic, but it also holds a profound psychological truth. It reminds us that it is through our pain, failures, and crises that we discover the potential for healing and growth. For Jung, these wounds are invitations from the unconscious to embark on the process of individuation, the path of integration that leads to wholeness. In this video, we'll explore how Rumi's timeless wisdom aligns with Jung's concepts, revealing the universal nature of the inner journey. We'll uncover how the teachings of these two visionaries can illuminate our lives and help us navigate the challenges of self-discovery. The wound is the place where the light enters you. Rumi and Jung spoke of the same process, the transmutation of pain into wisdom. For Jung, psychic suffering isn't something to be avoided, it's a gateway to self-discovery. This idea lies at the heart of individuation, the process of integrating conscious and unconscious aspects of our psyche to become whole. Rumi, on the other hand, saw pain as a gift from the divine, a tool to bring us closer to our spiritual essence. When Rumi says, "The wound is the place where the light enters," he describes what Jung might call an opportunity for individuation. An emotional wound, whether from trauma, loss, or disillusionment, exposes our vulnerability. It cracks the ego's facade, revealing parts of ourselves we often ignore or suppress. For Jung, these parts reside in the shadow, the region of the unconscious where we store everything we'd rather not face. However, Jung reminds us that the shadow isn't merely a repository of negative traits. It also holds untapped resources, creativity, strength, intuition. By confronting our shadow, we transform darkness into light, just as Rumi suggests that light enters through our wounds. This process isn't easy, but it is essential for growth. Rumi also spoke of love as a catalyst for transformation. He saw love, whether divine or human, as a force that dissolves the ego's barriers, connecting us to the whole. Similarly, Jung recognized love's transformative power. He believed that deep relationships, referred to as _conjunctio_ in alchemy, could act as mirrors of our psyche. In these connections, we confront not only the beauty of the other, but also the hidden aspects of ourselves they reflect. Through Rumi and Jung, we see that the path to self-discovery is universal. Pain becomes a teacher, love a guide, and transformation an inevitable outcome when we embrace the journey within. Both Jung and Rumi point in the same direction. Transformation occurs when we allow ourselves to connect with our wounds, love our imperfections, and transcend the narrow view of who we believe we are. Imagine a man named Pedro. He has just gone through a painful breakup. The end of the relationship has left him disoriented, unable to see a way forward. To escape the pain, Pedro throws himself into work, avoiding any reflection on what happened. Yet, as months pass, he realizes his anxiety is only growing, and the emptiness remains. This scenario reflects what Jung and Rumi warn us about. Avoiding pain only deepens it. Pedro's wound, left unaddressed, stays open. Suppressing it merely amplifies its effects, because, as Jung said, what we resist persists. At this crossroads, Pedro must decide whether to keep running or to face his wound head-on. Encouraged by therapy grounded in Jung's concepts, Pedro begins to explore his pain. He discovers that the breakup triggered deep-seated fears of rejection he has carried since childhood. Recognizing this is painful but also liberating. He realizes that this wound, though difficult to face, invites him to better understand himself and transform emotional patterns he hadn't been aware of. At the same time, Pedro seeks solace in spiritual readings about pain. In Rumi, he finds the words, "You were born with wings. Why prefer to crawl through life?" These words strike a chord. Pedro understands that his pain is not a punishment, but a call to rise, to discover new ways of relating to himself and others. In practice, Pedro starts meditating on his emotions, journaling daily about his pain and insights. He begins to see his wound not as a burden, but as a portal. This shift in perspective is where the light enters, as Rumi described, and the beginning of individuation, as Jung would explain. The teachings of Jung and Rumi are deeply relevant to our daily lives. Think about moments when you faced rejection, loss, or failure. These experiences, though difficult, carry lessons that can only be uncovered if we allow ourselves to fully feel them. For instance, someone who loses a job may initially feel shame and fear, but upon reflecting on their wound, might discover that the experience pushes them toward a purpose more aligned with their true calling. You have to keep breaking your heart until it opens. Rumi. For both Rumi and Jung, love is one of the most transformative forces that exist. To them, love isn't just a feeling, but an energy that breaks down barriers, dissolves the ego, and connects us to the whole. Rumi saw love as a manifestation of the divine, a guiding force that leads us beyond our human limitations. Jung, on the other hand, viewed love as an opportunity for individuation, a process of growth and integration that emerges when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable in relationships. In Jung's framework, deep relationships act as mirrors of the psyche. In these connections, we encounter not only the best in ourselves but also our shadow. This dynamic can be uncomfortable, but it is essential for growth. When we love, we risk being hurt, rejected, or abandoned. However, Jung and Rumi agree that it is precisely in this vulnerability that love's power as a catalyst for transformation lies. Pedro's story reminds us that wounds are not merely sources of pain, they are invitations to grow. Whether through love, loss, or self-reflection, our transformation begins when we step into the discomfort, trusting that the light will find its way in. Your task is not to seek love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. Rumi. For Jung, these barriers are the ego's defensive fears, insecurities, and emotional wounds we accumulate over a lifetime. Love, then, becomes a process of dismantling these defenses. It invites us to confront our shadow and integrate the parts of ourselves we're afraid to reveal. Rumi often spoke of divine love as an act of surrender. For him, to love is to relinquish control and allow ourselves to be guided by something greater. Jung reflects this idea in his concept of connecting with the self, the center of the unconscious that leads us to the greater purpose of our existence. This connection, like Rumi's divine love, requires humility and an acceptance of our humanity. Practically speaking, love can be a powerful path to healing. When we approach our flaws and imperfections with compassion, we begin to love ourselves authentically. This self-love is not narcissistic. It's the kind of love that allows us to embrace our wounds and, in turn, welcome the wounds of others. Both Jung and Rumi remind us that love is both destruction and creation. It tears down the illusions of the ego, but creates space for the emergence of the true self. To love whether oneself, another, or the divine is an act of courage and transformation. Why do you stay in prison when the door is so wide open? Rumi and Jung teach us that the path to freedom and healing lies within. Both understood that our wounds, pain, and challenges are not enemies to be vanquished, but allies to be embraced. They invite us to look beyond the surface, to dive into the depths of our psyche, and to find in the shadows the hidden glow of self-discovery. For Rumi, this journey is guided by love, which dissolves fear and connects us to something greater. For Jung, the process is individuation, the path to becoming who we truly are in all our complexity. Both show us that transformation demands the courage to face our wounds, to recognize our barriers, and to surrender to the flow of life, embracing both light and darkness. How can we integrate these teachings into our daily lives? Accept pain as part of the journey. Understand that pain is an intrinsic part of the human experience. When faced with a challenge, ask yourself, what is this experience trying to teach me? Instead of running from pain, embrace it as an opportunity for growth. Let love guide your actions. Love is more than affection for someone. It's an openness to vulnerability, an acceptance of imperfection, and an embrace of our shared humanity. Start with self-love. As Rumi said, you were born with dignity and fullness. Do not seek this outside yourself. Practice self-reflection. Connect with your unconscious through dreams, meditation, journaling, or therapy, and explore the symbols that arise from your psyche. Jung and Rumi would agree that the more you know yourself, the freer you become. The final message is simple yet profound. Our wounds are not the end, they are the beginning. They are portals to the light, guides to self-knowledge, and pathways to love. By welcoming our pain and surrendering to the journey, we discover that we are much more than we believed we are. As Rumi said, the ocean in a drop. The door is open, It's up to you to take the first step.